This is Omar Nashashibi in Washington, D.C., focusing on one of the several trade conflicts brewing between Mexico and the United States these days. When the U.S. and Mexico in 2019 negotiated a settlement of the Section 232 tariffs on imported steel and aluminum, the two sides agreed to a monitoring mechanism to identify the sudden increase of shipments into the U.S. After roughly 1 year of talks, Washington is now pressing Mexico to take action to prevent the surge in additional steel and aluminum imports and create a monitoring system for specific types of those metals. If the two sides did not resolve the issue, we could see resumption of tariffs on imported steel and aluminum from Mexico and retaliatory tariffs in place on U.S. exports as well. Since 2023, at the urging of the U.S. steel industry, the U.S. government has repeatedly raised concern with the government of Mexico over the surge in Mexican steel and aluminum imports into the United States. However, the definition of a surge is unclear, though the industry is especially focused on whether much of those metals are actually originating from third countries, primarily China, through a process known as transshipment. Starting in 2018, former President Trump began imposing tariffs of 25% on steel that's imported and 10% on imported aluminum into the United States. The tariffs remain in place today, with the exception of several countries, including Mexico, on which the tariffs were suspended due to that agreement from 2019. This is a major trade issue here in Washington, D.C., as we see the expansion of Chinese companies operating in Mexico and not only in the electric vehicle market. The real concern among policymakers is that Chinese producers are transshipping goods from China through other countries, in this case Mexico, with the actual final destination being the United States. Producers in the U.S. state that cheaper products are entering the United States in violation of the Section 232 tariff agreement and the new NAFTA known as the USMCA. Goods manufactured in Mexico often enter the U.S. duty-free or under lower margins. However, steel from China is still subject to the 25% tariff upon entry to the United States, while imported Chinese aluminum faces that 10% tariff rate. The U.S. entered into formal consultations with Mexico in 2023 over the surge in imports and now is asking for more concrete steps from Mexico. In an official readout provided by the Office of the U.S. Trade Representative, or USTR, on February 16, 2024, USTR Ambassador Catherine Tai, quote, emphasized that the 2019 joint statement on the Section 232 duties on steel and aluminum allows for the reimposition of Section 232 tariffs, end quote. Under the steel and aluminum agreement reached in 2019, Mexico must take steps to prevent transshipments from third countries, in addition to the U.S. being able to reinstate the tariffs. That is the position of the U.S. The comments in the virtual meeting Ambassador Tai held on February 16 with Mexico's Secretary of the Economy sent a message that the U.S. could reinstate tariffs on imports from Mexico if the sides could not reach an agreement. In response, at a press conference on February 27, the Mexican Economic Secretary stated that Mexico would reimpose tariffs on U.S. steel if Washington acted first. Sources here in town in Washington indicate that the U.S. and Mexico could work to reinstate the export monitoring program and are compiling a list of which steel and aluminum products will receive the additional scrutiny. USTR has already publicly stated it added rebar to the list, which is used to reinforce concrete and construction projects, which is a top priority for the U.S. steel industry. This is an important space to watch, especially in an election year that could impact the cost and supply of steel and aluminum in North America and cause disruption between the U.S. and Mexico. We expect in the coming weeks to see more from the USTR and possible next steps, which articles of steel and aluminum of our particular interest, and whether Mexico agrees to restrict or more closely track the imports from third countries. As always, for more information, please reach out to CLA on this topic or any others related to trade and tariffs.